let's talk about my top 10 favorite series of all time. And just kind of for reference, here is my 20 through 11 favorite series. I've tried to rank them at least down through 20. And I know some of you may be surprised at some of the things that's on that didn't make the top 10 list, but hey, any of them has an opportunity to move up through time. So I'd say starting off strong, my number 10 favorite series of all time is Red Rising. And again, you may be asking, well, how did Red Rising show up that low? Well, it's not really low. Out of all these series, that's pretty high, and there probably was a time when it would have been a little higher, but things change, people changes, taste change. And so this dropped a little bit, but still a beloved series. This was one of the first series I can remember reading back in 2023. One of the first series I read in 2023. I kind of read it just straight through until I got to Lightbringer coming out, and then read that. Really love this series. Some awesome characters, awesome story, very emotional. It really grips you, and it is number 10 for me. And for number 9, it's not really too shabby either. It is Harry Potter. Harry Potter is, of course, a beloved book series. Some of the most memorable characters in it, relationships that just between friends that will stick with people for a lifetime. And I don't know that we'll ever see the event of book releases that we saw when this was being released. Everybody was camping out to get the books. An amazing series, very nostalgic for a lot of people. Number 8 of my favorite series of all time is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Now, this, again, nostalgia plays a big part in this, but I do love a lot of the characters. Aslan, the story of the siblings throughout the series. And to be honest with you, something we always say is that if a book can make you cry, can move you emotionally, it goes up high on your list. The Last Battle, the last 2 or 3 chapters of that, I remember reading it through blurry eyes because I was crying my eyes out. I will always love The Chronicles of Narnia. And coming in at number 7 is from the king himself, the Dark Tower series. What can I say about the Dark Tower series? You actually see where I pulled the book from up there. This was a series that, is it horror? Is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Yes. It's the weirdest series I've ever read. It has some amazing story, amazing characters in it. One of my favorite characters of all time, Roland Deschain. If you know, you know. But anyway, this was an amazing series, and it deserves a high place on anybody's list who loves to read and loves to read books, especially people who love to read Stephen King. This was, like I said, the weirdest thing I've ever read, but one of the most rewarding book journeys I've ever taken. At number 6 is the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne. Now, first of all, I have to say, in the last couple of years, John Gwynne has become not only one of my favorite authors, he has become my favorite living author. The author who's still writing today. He is my favorite fantasy author. I love everything he writes, and I look forward to reading more of what he writes in the future. This was a great trilogy. From beginning to end, really, the first 2 books you really get in-depth character work. You get awesome battle scenes, but the character work, you really fall in love with the characters. You could get to know the characters. Probably one of the greatest female characters ever written, Orca. Come on now. And I love this book. I love The Shadow of the Gods, but Hunger of the Gods book 2, that is my absolute favorite. I think he ended it very explosively with Fury of the Gods, but Hunger of the Gods was my favorite of this series. This is an amazing series by an amazing author. And now it's time for the top 5. My top 5 favorite series of all time, and it starts off with number 5, Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. What can you say about this? We always talk about Stephen King being one of the greatest character writers who've ever been. I'm not sure if she doesn't have him beat. She is Robin Hobb is an amazing author. She has created an expansive world that just sends you on this journey that you can escape to. She puts her characters through a lot of trouble, especially our boy Fitz. I've not completed this entire series. I've read the first 9 books, and that's enough for me to say this is one of my favorite series of all time. In fact, it's number 5. And at number 4, here's another series that I've not completed. I'm working on it right now. But once again, 6 books in, working on the 7th book, I already know that if it stopped right now, if it hadn't have been finished after this particular book, after the book that I'm on right now, it would have still been one of my favorite series of all time, and that is Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. Just what a world building experience he takes you on. The lore, the history. A lot of people say, well, it's confusing to read, and it can be. I see that argument, I see that complaint, but you're supposed to follow the author along as he opens up this huge world, very dark at times, but in the midst of the darkness, something that I love about this series, there always seems to be hope. And that's something that the author said that he put into it, that it's not a grim dark, because grim dark is generally an absence of hope. Well, there's not an absence of hope in this. My number 3 favorite series of all time, and once again, I know we're having a pattern here. It's not completed, but it's about to be completed with the final book, and that is Sun Eater. And here I have my favorite entry in the series so far, Disquiet Gods. What an amazing series. Now, I know that people talk about the first book being the weakest book, and sure it was, but it's the weakest, and it's still a pretty good book. And then the series gets better and better and better. And hey, I love Hadrian Marlowe. I'm all about Hadrian Marlowe. So anyway, I love this series, and that's why it is pretty firm at number 3. Who knows? By the time I finish, it may go higher. It's not going lower. And my number 2 favorite series of all time, and it is a repeat author on this list, and that is John Gwynn's first series, The Faithful and the Fallen. Now, once again, this was the start, the first book, Malice. I would say it was the weakest book in the series. It was still a very good book, but you get thrown into this new world with new experiences, with a lot of POV characters, and it was a bit much at first, but it was enough for me to say, well, I'm going to continue the second book. And book 2 was a step up. And then book 3 was an even greater step up. In fact, one of the, as far as my opinion goes, one of the greatest steps up mid-series that I've ever read was Ruin, which is my favorite book in this series. But what a conclusion Wrath was. This is such a great series with great characters, animal companions, mentors, twists and turns. This is what made me fall in love with John Gwynn, and it's my number 2. And of course, if you follow my channel at all, you already know what number 1 is. I said that John Gwynn is my favorite living author. Well, my favorite author, period, of all time is J.R.R. Tolkien with The Lord of the Rings. You can add The Hobbit. You can throw the Silmarillion in here too if you want to, and plenty of his other books, which is that shelf. I love The Lord of the Rings. This is it is nostalgia, I'll admit. It is a connection point with my father, which is a big deal, but also he's the grandfather of modern fantasy. He just is. There's probably not many authors that have not been influenced, fantasy authors that has not been influenced by J.R.R. Tolkien. It's my number 1 series of all time, and it's hard to see that ever being knocked off. Thank you. What is your favorite series?